You know, at first I was going to call this next story Mark Zuckerberg Visibly Befuddled by AOC's Simple Questions. But that would not be, speaking of titles and clickbait, that would not really be an honest title for this story. These are actually pretty damn difficult questions that AOC asked Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg, because they get to the intersection of things like free speech, the right of a corporation to police content, voter suppression, foreign interference in elections. These actually are complicated things. What was notable was that Mark Zuckerberg seemed not to have answers as to what Facebook policies are, and that's really the problematic part. So let me set it up for you. We're going to look at some very interesting video here. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg was visibly befuddled by questions from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because neither Mark Zuckerberg nor Facebook as a whole nor Twitter really have answers that feel to the average person satisfactory to the questions that were being asked. So let's get right to it. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez questioned Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg about what will Facebook take down when it comes to news and advertisements? What kinds of ads are considered over the line and against the policies of Facebook with regard to ad policy? And it turns out that the answers are both not so clear, and also it doesn't seem like it's completely known to Mark Zuckerberg, which is a problem. Will Facebook take down an ad that says something false about a candidate? Zuckerberg says, well, we don't fact check ads. Well, what if the ad falsely promotes the wrong election date, as an example, and targets zip codes with disproportionately black voters? Mark Zuckerberg says, well, yeah, we might take that down then, because it's not just fact checking, it's relating to voter suppression. But lots of things relate to voter suppression, even if they're not about election day. So where is the line? AOC says, what if I targeted candidates with incorrect claims that they supported the Green New Deal? Republican voters might be upset with their incumbent Republican elected officials if they believed that those officials supported the Green New Deal. What if I ran an ad falsely saying they support the Green New Deal? These are actually interesting questions, and I want to get into the first clip, and you will see how visibly confused Mark Zuckerberg is.
Could I pay to target predominantly black zip codes and advertise them the incorrect election date?
No, Congresswoman, you couldn't. We have, even for these policies around the newsworthiness of content that politicians say, and the general principle that I believe that...
But you said you're not going to fact check my ads.
We have, if anyone, including a politician, is saying things that can cause, that is calling for violence or could risk imminent physical harm or voter or census suppression when we roll out the census suppression policy, we will take that content down.
So you will, there is some threshold where you will fact check political advertisements. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, Congresswoman, yes, for specific things like that, where there's imminent risk of harm.
Could I run ads targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Would I be able to run advertisements on Facebook targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal? I mean, if you're not fact-checking political advertisements, I'm just trying to understand the bounds here. What's fair game?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think
so. You don't know if I'll be able to do that.
I think probably.
Do you see a potential problem here with a complete lack of fact-checking on political advertisements?
Well, Congresswoman, I think lying is bad, and I think if you were to run an ad that had a lie, that would be bad. That's different from it being, in our position, the right thing to do to prevent your constituents or people in an election from seeing that you had lied.
So you won't take down lies, or you will take down lies? I think it's just a pretty simple yes or no.
Congresswoman,
I'm not talking about spin. I'm talking about actual
yes, in most cases, in a democracy, okay. I believe that people should be able to see for themselves what politicians that they may or may not vote for
so
are
you
saying,
won't take
judge
them
their
down.
Character for themselves.
So you won't take. You may flag that it's wrong, but you won't take it down.
Congresswoman, it depends on the context that it shows up. Organic posts.
calling for violence risks physical harm, could suppress votes. So it is sort of a form of fact-checking that they do. And now this really exposes that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't really understand the policy, and maybe even more insidiously, it's possible that Facebook doesn't really know how they implement the policy that they've written down in order to have something that they can point to. Let's look at another clip, AOC here asking Mark Zuckerberg, how does Facebook determine who is a trusted news source? Because this is something Facebook, it's a new initiative at Facebook. We want to mark what is likely to be an untrustworthy source or a trustworthy source. This is really important stuff for independent media like our show. Here is how Zuckerberg handles this question.
Question. In your ongoing dinner parties with far-right figures, some of who advance the conspiracy theory that white supremacy is a hoax, did you discuss so-called social media bias against conservatives, and do you believe there is a bias?
Congresswoman, so I don't remember everything that was in the question.
That's all right. I'll move on. Can you explain why you've named the Daily Caller, a publication well documented with ties to white supremacists, as an official fact checker for Facebook?
Congresswoman, sure. We actually don't appoint the independent fact checkers. They go through an independent organization called the Independent Fact Checking Network that has a rigorous standard for who they allow to serve as a fact checker.
So you would say that white supremacist-tied publications meet a rigorous standard for fact checking? Thank you.
Congresswoman, I would say that we're not the one assessing that standard.
So on that one, Zuck is just shirking responsibility. He's saying, hey, listen, we appointed someone else to tell us who's trustworthy, and AOC wants to get to, well, what about this particular news outlet that is in bed with, associated with white supremacy? How did you determine that they're trustworthy? And Zuckerberg is saying, we didn't determine anything, we just outsourced that to somebody else. So far, Zuckerberg is unsure about what is and isn't allowed in Facebook ads. He says that they aren't even the ones determining who is trustworthy. None of this is particularly inspiring of confidence, but this is actually really good stuff to be talking about because it's so important, and the social media platforms are not figuring it out. The most important thing to take from this is, sure, listen, Zuckerberg, as a billionaire tech CEO who doesn't have our best interests as his priority, we know about him, we know about Jeff Bezos, we know about all of that stuff. That's not news. We know that we cannot just assume that these big tech companies and their CEOs have the broader best interests as their top priority. That's not new. The issue here is, if we had a more educated population, a lot of these issues would not be issues. That's not where we are right now. So we do need to figure out what the framework is going to be for managing these types of problems. Now, Facebook, as Mark Zuckerberg makes very clear, what they want as a policy is, we will do some stuff and create some documents to be able to point to make it look like we're working on this, but it's not really going to fix anything. And when we're asked about it, we'll just waffle back and forth, sort of trying to look, looking like he needs to be rebooted, Control-Alt-Delete. That's not good. It's not good for anyone. It's not good for users. It's not good for political discourse. It's not good for public education. So really nice job by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of pulling out from Mark Zuckerberg both the ambiguities and the lack of clarity around some of these policies. That being said, this is a way bigger issue. Even if Mark Zuckerberg had clean-cut answers, it still doesn't solve the problem of what should be done and how this should be managed. So excellent job, but shows us that there's a lot of work to do along these lines. Make sure you give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/David Pakman Show, and follow the David Pakman Show Instagram page at David Pakman Show. Big things are happening there.